everybody. So just to introduce myself as well as the role of Tech Commissioner, which was originally supposed to be 3 days a month, by the way. It's now about 7 days a week. I'm a partner in a boutique corporate finance and growth advisory firm that works with the services and the tech sector. So basically helping businesses to grow, to finance themselves and then to exit. And I have a very specific interest regionally in the funding agenda. In fact, for any of you who were at the leadership breakfast this morning, it was a topic that came up time and time again as an area that needs some attention. So I'm hoping we're going to get a little bit of clarity from the panel on this topic. So my guests have 𝗕𝗂𝗰𝗵𝗨𝗶𝗶, who is the founder of 𝗕𝗰ance, which is an Asian IP investment bank. So welcome, 𝗕𝗂𝗰𝗵𝗨𝗶𝗶. We have 𝗕𝗂𝗃 from British Business Bank, and 𝗕𝗂𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃. I hope I said that reasonably well, 𝗕𝗃. That was okay. Yeah, okay, from 𝗘𝗰ance. So I guess first of all, to start, perhaps I could ask each of you just to say a few words of introduction about yourself and your role in the funding ecosystem, and then we'll go into some questions if that's okay. So, Jason, over to you.
Thank you. Hello everyone, I'm Jason, I'm from Singapore. I run an IP bank, alright? Many people will ask what is it. Basically, we aggregate patents from tech companies like likes of Panasonic, Nokia, and many others that are in our client list. So we help them to seed the technologies into startups, and we have been running this program that we have launched in Singapore since 2017, and now we're running in 9 different countries. We invested over 70 startups in terms of patent portfolios into helping them to seed the first technology. And separately, we also run a venture capital fund to reinforce funding opportunities to the startups that are in our program.
Fantastic. Well, welcome there, Jason. Tracy, over to you from British Business Bank. No less. Here we go.
Yeah, thanks very much, Martin. Tracy from British Business Bank. So for those that don't know who the British Business Bank are, we are the economic bank for the UK. We are operated and owned by we're owned by the UK government, but we are separate and we operate separately to those. And we are here really to help and support SMEs in their access to finance journey and making access to finance easier for SMEs throughout the whole of the UK, including some regional programmes that we have, and I'll possibly come on to those in a little while.
Tracy, 𝗕𝗃.
Hi everyone. I'm part of the investment team at 𝗕𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃. We're an early stage fund, so seed to Series B, typical check size sort of 1 to 4 million. We're broadly sector agnostic, so we invest in all types of businesses. But historically, we've had a sort of bias, a little bit of a bias towards sort of enterprise SaaS and fintech businesses. Invest across the UK. Our biggest vehicle is an EIS fund. We also have a more traditional sort of GPLP life sciences fund as well.
Fantastic, thank you. So I'm sure the answers are going to be here. I can't wait for the responses to get to some of the questions. So I have 4 or 5 questions, and I'll start with one person in particular, but if I can invite you all to comment as you see fit. So Tracy, if I could start with you. So lack of funding or access to venture funding in particular is a problem that's constantly cited by emerging ventures, particularly pre-Series A. And as I mentioned, you talked a lot this morning. It's talked about in many conversations I have with early stage companies. I guess let's get to the heart of it. From the perspective of the British Business Bank, is this really a problem, or is it a myth in terms of the challenge of actually accessing finance for early stage companies?
So it's definitely not a myth. We know that there is issues accessing early stage finance. If there wasn't, the British Business Bank wouldn't exist anyway. That's what we're here for, is to be able to support those businesses and access to finance. We also have a number of programmes that we operate at the British Business Bank that help support early stage businesses all the way through to your larger sort of scale-up businesses that are perhaps looking for £10, £15 million plus rounds going into the business. We have regional programmes, as I mentioned, such as the Midlands Engine Investment Fund that operates here in the West Midlands. That helps to support early stage investment with equity as well, anything from 50,000 upwards. We've also got the likes of 𝗘𝗰liche here, who are actually one of our delivery partners at the British Business Bank as well. But I mean, to give you some idea around that and what we generally see at the British Business Bank is a series of events that we hold throughout the year, and we ask our intermediaries to join us with giving feedback on what's happening in the West Midlands area and throughout the whole of the UK, but specifically for here, 56% of businesses are saying, or intermediaries, sorry, are saying that access to finance is a big issue, but actually 70% of intermediaries are actually saying the biggest issue is where businesses find that help and support, which is a concern. You know, there is help and support out there, and there is finance out there, but how do you access it? And that's the biggest thing, I think.
Is that in terms of how do you access it? Is that in terms of being ready for it, or actually knowing where it is? Is it a connection challenge?
It's knowing where it is.
Literally
Yeah.
physically,
You know, and if this is intermediaries that don't know where it is, then how will SMEs even find it? You know, it's that kind of stage that if intermediaries knew where that finance was, it would certainly help, you know, smaller businesses and accountants, etc., would be able to advise them on where to find it.
Okay. So 𝗕𝗁, can I ask for your comments on it? Because you represent a VC firm, you're not centred on London, you're in Manchester, I believe, as a primary base, or one of your bases. What's your take on this? You know, is it a myth or is it a challenge?
Yeah, it's definitely not a myth, so I completely agree with what Tracy said, but actually a lot of the schemes being run by the British Business Bank has helped plug that really early stage funding gap, so MPIF, NEIF, the Regional Angels Programme. But actually where we see the funding gap in the market, and this is something 𝗕𝗂𝗶𝗹𝗱 was set up to do, is to plug a funding gap in the market, is actually after that really early stage investment, so sort of Series A to sort of Series B, because there's a lot of sort of angel investment in region, and there's a lot of sort of late stage growth investment in region, but there isn't that sort of in between bit where there may be a few funds investing in it, but it's certainly not a competitive landscape, and that's why 𝗕𝗂𝗶𝗹𝗱 have tried to sort of tailor our investment thesis to that sort of just after a Series Seed, once you've got some commercial traction, and that's where we historically invest. But I think it historically has been a problem, but it's much less so now, at very early stage at least.
Jason, do you have a perspective on that?
Yeah, I think similarly in Asia, I think this is also kind of a real challenge. I think it's kind of happening everywhere, including Japan. The reason is because I think the early stage investors, or should I say the VCs, tends to migrate to later stage after some time. I mean, we have seen a surge of venture capital setting up in Singapore, I think about 7-8 years ago. Many of them has transited from seed fund to Series A or Series B fund. One of the reasons is because, of course, the high risk profile of investing into startups when they are very early stage. And many investors, especially I think in Asia, they are less risk averse. So therefore, they may not be so willing to put their money into high risk kind of, or high risk, maybe no gain kind of investment fund. And I think similarly, we know that for the past 2 years, we are kind of suffering a kind of winter for the startups in terms of seeking for funds. Although there's a lot of dry powder on the site, but then nobody is actually wanting to put on the check because there are so many things happening around the world. So it's quite ironic because so one of the things that we observe is that like in Japan, there's a lot of encouragement to set up new funds in Japan. Like the government is asking more financial institutions to go to Japan to look at it because they also need to spur their startup landscape. So I guess one of the ways really to encourage new funds and then to populate the new funds such that these new funds can have access to the LPs that are high risk, and then they can kind of spin start the investment for the very early stage drugs.
Okay. Well, let me build on this point about new funds. I mean, one of the challenges perhaps I see in thinking of this in the Midlands is we have a relatively small funder ecosystem. There are some well-established regional players here, certainly at an early stage, and there are some PE houses that operate here, but it's a relatively small funder ecosystem. And as an outsider looking in, if you like, Jason, are there any particular thoughts you would have on what we might be doing to attract more venture investors?
Yeah, I think one of the observations I have is I think the universities here are doing a good job, in creating, because I studied in the UK maybe more than 25 years ago. I studied King's in London. But then for me, when I was, because we launched our challenge last year in the UK, and we actually started off in Glasgow, but then now we are also looking to Birmingham. So when we look at the landscape and talking to the ground here, we realize there's a lot of tech talents as well, and there's a lot of so-called development in the startup space, which is very exciting. However, when talking from the investor standpoint, we don't seem to really get to hear that so much globally. So everybody will know that London is a startup hub, but the messaging of Birmingham may not be as prominent, which could be one small aspect to. I think there are many things that have been done. I think it's just more like how to get the investors aware that hey, there's opportunity here, and maybe feature some of the good startups, because the investors are all looking for returns. If you can tell them that there are good startups here with good ROI and there's a good market for exit, so the investor will start to look at how they should come to Birmingham to actually set up the fund.
It's a powerful point, because one of the things that came out of the leadership breakfast again this morning was the need for the region to have a more powerful voice, to find its voice. Perhaps culturally we're not necessarily as forward projecting ourselves as some of the regions, perhaps like the North. So perhaps if I come to you with that question, same question, Mahesh, what is it that would really attract you to say, hey, we've got to be in the Midlands? It's sort of not far away, but what is it that would cause you to really go all in on a Midlands base?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think to some extent I agree with Jason, right? If you can showcase the really strong tech talents, there's really strong startups, to some extent, if they build it here, people will come. Like VCs are like moths to a flame to some extent, right? We're returns driven. We want to get those exits. But I think there are some critical bits, right? Infrastructure is key, really strong universities, good transportation links between cities, international airports, getting investors into the city easily, sort of founder-friendly tech transfer policy. The university's not taking a huge amount of equity for themselves, making sure that founders have that upside capability from the investments, even though the tech was developed in university, is critical as well. But I think Birmingham has all these things. It's just shouting about it a little bit louder in some extent.
And Tracy, this sort of links back to your point about connections, right? It's building on that maybe the investors just don't know how great the businesses are here. Does that resonate with you, or do you think it's something else?
Yeah, I think it does a little bit. More importantly as well, though, we've got the likes of 𝗕𝗂𝗶𝗹𝗀𝗶 that are a partner of the British Business Bank. They are, like you say, based just outside of the West Midlands, but it's about bringing, those people into the area. The more, like you say, the more you come into the area, the more that's actually going to attract other VCs as well into Birmingham and into the West Midlands. And that's when you get that little bit of competitive behaviour between the VCs, and that is quite important to be able to bring those people in. And it does go back exactly to what you said, Martin, that if we don't shout loud enough, we're not going to get them into the West Midlands. When you look at the likes of Manchester, they are quite forthcoming and quite out there with projecting their voice, and I do think that we perhaps do miss that a little bit here.
So a bit of Manchester swagger perhaps in the Midlands perhaps. Okay, fascinating. Well, let's move on then, and Mahesh, I'll come to you first with this one. So clearly the funding ecosystem is pretty complex. If you look at the foundational elements of that ecosystem with angels, we have SCIS, we have EIS, and as an angel investor myself, those are fantastic tax breaks. How important do you think it is to have a thriving angel ecosystem that sort of underpins the whole thing. Is that relevant to your point of view? So the real question behind it is, should we be putting effort in, should I be putting effort into stimulating the angel ecosystem, or should it all go towards trying to get more VCs here?
No, I think angel funding plays a really critical component in the venture ecosystem, because they'll just go to places where VCs won't. They'll invest in pre-revenue businesses, they'll invest in ideation because it'll be people who've sort of done well for themselves and sort of want to give back. So there's this altruistic element rather than a purely sort of returns-driven element that you see in the angel investment space versus the VC space, which is more returns-driven. And I think EIS and SEIS plays a really crucial part in that, especially in a high interest rate environment, right?
Yeah.
Because the tax incentivization of it makes it an interesting investment versus going and investing in sort of a government bond or something, which from a returns profile perspective could be similar. But yeah, was there a second?
Well, the other part to that is, I mean, what does great look like? I mean, I've spoken to David Levine up in Manchester Angels. I mean, are there any particular learning points you think that we can bring into the Midlands from what Manchester has done with its angel network?
I think what Manchester has done quite well is managed to have lots of different VCs at different stages, so you really get that sort of competitive tension there, where you do get more founder-friendly terms, and you have to be competitive on things like valuation and deal terms and things like that. And I don't profess to be sort of confident in the Birmingham tech ecosystem, but I think you really need that competitive tension there, which forces funds to be competitive and to win deals.
Okay. So Tracy, British Business Bank, I think, does quite a lot with angels and co-invest funds, etc. So what's your perspective on the angel ecosystem?
Yeah, so we've got the Regional Angels programme that operates specifically outside of London to support early stage businesses. And yeah, really it just reiterates what you've said. It is a very important part of the ecosystem. If we've not got those angel investors to invest in those really early stage businesses, they're just not going to take off. And until we have that here in the West Midlands, it is an area that gets fed back to me on a regular basis that we do lack that early stage angel.
Yeah.
But again, it is about bringing, certainly from British Business Bank's perspective, of those partners that deliver that Regional Angels programme, we need to get them into the West Midlands area.
Yeah.
We don't have delivery partners specifically here, boots on the ground in the West Midlands. The closest is probably going to be the likes of 𝗕𝗂𝗶𝗹𝗀 up in Manchester. But it is about bringing those people in to start that cycle of investing in those early stage businesses and growing that really.
Okay. Jason, do you have a perspective on angel?
Yeah, I think it's very important as part of the equation for encouraging more startups to even start a business. I think, of course, one of the very important point about angels is that we definitely need to find kind of strategic angels as well. Angels who can really add value to the startups. I'm not so clear about the angel market here in the UK. However, like in Asia, sometimes the angels can be pretty demanding. So I agree on the point. It has to be founder friendly. Sometimes the angels are just asking for too high a stake, and then they're just to the next investor it will look too unbalanced in the cap table. So I guess that is also one point to take note, because the cap table is everything that the next investor will look at before they put in the money. Yeah.
Okay. So time is relatively short, but I've got a question I'd like to specifically put to you, Tracy, and then I'll ask for all panel members for a closing comment. So the majority of VC funding goes to London. Okay. But we're in a digital economy. Most markets for SaaS businesses that I would know are not localised around London, they're everywhere. So just really interested in why, actually asking the stupid question, why does the money go to London? And what can we learn from that to increase our share of funding?
So why does it go to London? That's a really interesting. So from the British Business Bank's perspective, we have a regional fund that operates here. We don't have regional funds in the London area. We don't operate those funds in that golden triangle, if you like. For those that don't know, it's the Midlands Engine Investment Fund. That is a £320 million fund that does end this year, ends in December, and there is going to be a £400 million follow-on fund that is specific for West Midlands businesses, or Midlands businesses should I say, because it does cover East Mids as well. And part of that is equity, so anything from 50,000 up to 5 million in equity that is going up to on the new fund. So it is out there, and it is, you know, there are regional funds operating across the whole of the UK pretty much now, apart from that London section. We've recently just launched a new fund up in Scotland, so we are kind of spreading our wings up on that front, and really trying to level those regional imbalances that we have got across the UK. The other side of that is from Birmingham, it's very simple to jump on a train and get into London.
Even quicker when we've got HS2, by the
Even
way.
quicker when we have HS2.
Allegedly.
So, you know, you have got that kind of thing going on, as well as that businesses are perhaps going down to London to raise the equity there, because they have got more choice. Again, it comes back to the competition side of things of VCs. There are more in that area. But yeah, it's...
Okay, so there's some things we can do. That's good news. So I need to bring us to a close. I'm going to ask each of the panel members for, I guess, a closing comment, and I'm really asking for a little bit of advice, actually. So advice either to Tech West Midlands or to the ventures in this region. What do you think is the best action? What's the one thing we can do to maximise the funding opportunities for ventures here? Yeah, so Jason.
I think I have 2 points. I think first, of course, is to show to the world what exactly West Midlands has in the most obvious and straightforward or loud way. Second, of course, I think also on the corporate element, I think it's also important to engage the multinational companies, like the tech companies, to get to see the tech talents here, because they are always looking for talents. You know, I have. Because we have a lot of customers in Europe and also in Japan, they are always looking for new business, and then they are always looking for which city of the world provides the best tech talents.
Yeah.
So I think those are some things that they will be looking at, and then if the corporates are coming here, it also helps to spur up the economy, which is something that we hope to see.
Fantastic, thank you, Tracy.
For me, I think it would be going back to the point really of shouting a bit louder about your business and what the impacts that perhaps has in the West Midlands. You can find more information out about the different types of finance available through British Business Bank on the website. And we also are moving into a period of time now where we do Business Finance Week. For those of you that are not based in the West Midlands, we have got 28, 30 events going on across the whole of the UK that you can join, virtually or face to face, and it will just give you that bit more information around VCs, etc.
Fantastic, thank you. Mahesh?
Yeah, I think just in line with Tracy and Jason, I think you have to shout about it a bit louder. But I think what Birmingham has that maybe London doesn't have is it's way more affordable. So you can that is a really great driving point for bringing talent into the city. It's why I would consider moving. And I think you can emphasize these things to bring the talent into the ecosystem as well.
Fantastic. So interesting, I think the couple of points that really resonate with me, which actually should be eminently solvable, is the connection, just letting everybody know what's there, whether we're just connecting investors and investees together, and doing that in a simple way, so we sort of make it very frictionless, and shouting louder so that the VC ecosystem and on the international stage know actually what we've got. And these are very, very common themes. So thank you so much to my